This is the Tech Support Guy Show, episode 34, for Saturday, April 17th, 2010. Upgrade your iPhone to Windows 95. Welcome to the Tech Support Guy Show. I am Mike Cermak, known on the site as Tech Guy. With me today is Glenn Cermak, who is a social studies teacher up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and my brother.
Hey.
Glenn is also the... What is your official other electronics position there?
Technology Integration Facilitator.
Yeah, that's right. Technology Integration Facilitator. I like that.
Sounds official, doesn't it?
It does, man. It sounds very official. Let me put you up there. I had a bottom third over top of your face, so I won't do that. So thanks for joining me here at the last minute. Brian and Dan weren't available suddenly, and Brian actually, I'm not sure when he's going to be available again because he's got a little one on the way pretty soon, and of course Dan has a little one as of a couple of months ago. So these guys are growing up and having families, and now aren't available to just chit chat about technology.
No thanks.
We'll have them back soon.
I will always be available.
Here's the problem, though. What's going to happen, Glenn, is that we're going to turn, whenever they start coming back onto the show, we're going to have like a mommy tech show. They're going to be coming here and they're going to be talking about the gadgets for, the kids and what kind of pumps to buy and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that'll
be weird.
Ekum in the chat room says,
I'm not going to listen to that one.
Ekum in the chat room says that I'm next. So, just watch out. He might know something I don't know. So anyhow, we got a couple of things we want to talk about today. First off, the biggest story going on right now, as far as I'm concerned, is iPhone OS 4 is going to be coming out. Now, the rumor is that it's supposed to be coming out in the summer. A lot of people suspect we won't see it until the fall. But this is currently iPhone is at version, or iPhone OS, I should say, the operating system that runs on the iPhone and the iPad and the iPod Touch. That currently runs 3.1. And so this is the big next revision, and has a lot of features that people have been asking for. I don't know if you read much or watched the keynote or anything on this. Steve Jobs was, up there and doing his thing.
I did.
So some of the biggest things for me, two things have held me back from owning an iPhone. The number one biggest thing is no keyboard, of which I have to admit I might be able to get over. I got an iPod Touch that I had to use to be able to do some development and mobile web development and so on. So I've been starting to use the touchscreen. And you know how you told me years ago that I would get used to it?
Yes.
Given a couple of weeks, you might have been onto something. I might be starting to get used to it. I really like having the hard keys, but I'm
with you.
I prefer it. And you're an Android guy now.
For some things, I do like having an actual keyboard, but whenever I text, whenever I just go to a website, things like that, I just use the on-screen keyboard now.
Yeah, and that's nice with the Android is that you have the choice. You can do either one. See, with the Palm, you're stuck with the hard keyboard. I prefer the hard keyboard, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, really? I didn't realize the Palm doesn't have a...
Nope, no on-screen keyboard on the Palm.
That's interesting.
It is. So that's something we need to get into a little bit more here in a couple of minutes, is both Android and Palm. But first, be a little teaser there. How do you like that? But first, we're going to talk about the iPhone 4 stuff a little bit. The biggest thing for me, other than the keyboard, has been multitasking. And the iPhone simply doesn't have multitasking as it is now. I mean, they kind of cheat and they say, well, the web browser remembers where you were, so if you close it and go to a different application and go back in, it still remembers it. You can play music at the same time you're doing other things, but that's it. I mean, really, you can't have background applications running. The programs that you use, the social networking and Google, what's it called? Google. What am I talking about, Glenn? The program that lets people see where you're... Latitude. I was going to say altitude. Yeah. That's not right. So Google Latitude and programs like that, and Loops and Foursquare and things like that kind of monitor where you are, can't run in the background on the iPhone. And any other application you'd want to run in the background, you can't do it. Only one program can be running at a time. And Apple has said that their concern with that is performance and battery life if you have multiple applications running at the same time, which I understand, but come on, every other freaking smartphone out there, Windows Mobile, Palm, and Android, name it, they all do multitasking. I mean, come on.
And they have from the start.
From the start, right. How long has Windows Mobile had, multitasking? I mean,
right.
So I see you have an assistant in the background there.
Yes, she would like to be in the podcast.
She's adorable.
She's had a rough morning.
Oh, she looks exhausted. So anyhow, they're finally going to add multitasking to the iPhone 4 now. iPhone OS 4, I should say. People always correct me when I call it iPhone 4. So, like I said, it's the operating system that runs on the iPad and the iPhone and the iPod Touch. So what they're saying here is they're kind of sort of going to have multitasking. It says that developers will have access developers will have access to 7 multitasking services, which will allow tasks to be performed in the background while preserving performance and battery life. So you'll be able to make a voice over IP call while playing a game and checking email, or find a restaurant while listening to Pandora, and more. Those are some good examples.
Mm-hmm.
So the limitation there is they have 7 ways of being able to do multitasking. I don't understand exactly what that means, and I wasn't able to find exactly what that means yet. The SDK is still not available to the public yet, only to some Apple developers right now.
How many different... multitasking seems pretty straightforward to me.
So, well, here's the deal. According to Engadget, and I'll post the links in our show notes on this. But according to
love Engadget.
Engadget, yeah, I do too. They say that it's not true multitasking. What it is that there's 7 services that run in the background that applications can communicate with and send their process, into, or send their code into. So these services are not third party. They're in the OS, and just third party apps can talk with them and say, hey, please run this in the background for me. So these 7 services are background audio, which allows
they already had.
Right, which basically they have, but I don't think you could have third party apps connect to it. I think it was just the iPod player that could connect to it. Because you couldn't have Pandora playing on an iPhone and then go surf the web at the same time, could you?
No,
right.
You can only play things in iTunes.
So with background audio, you would be able to do
iPod
that.
Part.
Right. The second one is voice over IP, which allows you to make calls over the internet like Skype and things like that, which is pretty cool. Location services for GPS, and there's an indicator if a service is tracking you. Updated push notifications with local notifications. Task completions, so that if a file upload finishes in the background or something, it can let you know.
Sure.
And fast app switching, which allows you to sleep apps and then resume them instantly. So, pretty cool. Engadget points out, however, notably missing is conversation alerts, such as IM or Twitter.
Right.
So we don't know
Although I would assume that Twitter could use the push.
I would think so. You're thinking that task completions, like file uploads and so on? I'm thinking some developer...
It says that it'll have push notifications.
Well, push notifications usually restricted to email, though. I don't know. We shall see. This is all,
I would think Twitter would be able to, on the iPhone, in the upper, I guess, right-hand corner, I think, of the icon, whenever you get an email, a little red circle pops up and tells you how many emails you have waiting for you. I would think the Twitter icon, you could have a very similar thing.
You would think so, yeah, absolutely. And I know that they are going to create the home button to be a fast switch between other applications that you have running, which is kind of a cool idea. I don't know if I can get a good picture of that, but you might just have to take my word for it. But the other thing about it, though, that's kind of cool, is they're going to allow you to have folders now. Yeah, which is pretty sweet. So if you have, since they have however many thousands of applications out there for iPhone now, if you have more than a handful, it gets pretty messy. Now you could have a folder of games or a folder of, whatever you want, jailbreak applications, whatever. And put them into. So the current
I think
limit,
you could already have that.
The current limit on the iPhone and iPad and iPod Touch and so on. Current limit was 180 applications that you could have on there. And so now with the folders, if you created that many folders, I suppose inside each folder you could have that same limit. The new limit is 2,160 applications.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool. They
And
have
unnecessary.
probably not. Well, I could see real hardcore users hitting 180 app limit. I don't know, maybe not. That would be hard. I couldn't do it,
No, I couldn't either.
but anyhow, so they've got some new things with the mail that they're allowing you to organize messages by thread and open up attachments in third-party applications, which is kind of cool. So that if you have, a file that you're downloading in your email that there's not a built-in Apple application for, you can download a third-party app that would be able to open it. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think it runs combined inbox now too.
That's right. Yep, exactly. They call it unified inbox, where you can have all of your emails come into
right. Yeah,
one.
we can't call it combined.
Yeah.
That's what Android calls it.
So some pretty cool things coming out. They have some business features that they're trying to push to be able to get more into the corporate environment, trying to step on the feet of BlackBerry and RIM and so on. So they do things like encrypted email and attachments are available. You can do wireless app distribution. So if you have 100 iPhones that you issue to your employees, you can control them, for lack of a better word, remotely and push applications to them and so on, just like you'd be able to do inside a network. And also VPN connectivity, which is pretty cool, from your iPhone into work.
Right.
Kind of neat. So some good features, the biggest thing being multitasking, and I'm going to be really interested to read more about this implementation of it, to see exactly the way they're going to have it do and what limitations will be involved there.
What I found interesting was that they've been cautious to do multitasking because of battery life.
That's right.
And they're now giving us these 7 different options for multitasking, and they're saying that it won't affect battery life.
Right. Well, that's because
But there's no actual physical upgrade to the phone. It's just the OS.
Well, now it's funny you point that out. I don't know if you heard this or not, but Apple has announced that multitasking and a lot of the other new features will be available only on the iPhone 3GS and above. The iPhone 3G and below won't support it, so obviously there's some kind of a hardware connection there. I mean, whether it's just processor speed or front side bus or RAM or whatever it is, there's some processor limitation.
I had heard that it was processor speed.
I suspect that's the biggest part of it, but I suspect that's not the only part of it. But so it's kind of sort of multitasking.
Battery life thing.
Rather than calling it multitasking, it seems to me that this is more like background applications or background services. I want to see, and maybe it will do this now because they do have the home button where you can open up multiple applications that are already running. But what I really want to see is that whenever I open up my email, it's wherever I left off in my email. Whenever I open up my, any other third-party app, whenever I open up Pandora, it's still at the screen where I left it and paused it. And whenever I open up, name another application for me, whatever it is, Evernote,
Maps or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Evernote, my Twitter client, whatever, Google Maps, right? Exactly. Whatever I had open, I want to go back to it, and I don't want it to be a new, application opening for the first time today. I want it to leave off just like I would on my computer, switch applications and just minimize them. So I want to see that that's what's happening. And if Apple does this, I think it's a huge step in the right direction and is really going to make, people like me who love Palm for its amazing multitasking abilities, that's going to be make me think twice.
Well, and who knows how long your Palm's going to be around.
So speaking of which, what a nice transition. Yeah, how about that? So I'm loving my Palm. And I think Palm is doing a lot of great things recently. Their push in the Verizon stores has been really good. They've added some international sales, international versions of the phones, which have been pushing pretty well. They fired their PR people, which they should have done a year ago.
Oh, God, those commercials were awful.
How scary were those commercials?
I was creeped out to even touch a Palm.
Right? I know. You were afraid you were going to turn into a pale blonde woman with in some creepy painting. I don't know. They were freaky commercials. So
they absolutely were.
Anyhow, so they fired that company. So I was thinking they're going in the right direction finally. I was thinking this is really good news. I was getting some extra Palm stock in my portfolio, and here I read the big news today that Palm's senior vice president of services and software, aka all that Palm does, is stepping down. And Michael Abbott, who is the man who's largely responsible for the WebOS and for the SDK for third-party apps to run on the Palm, aka the only reason Palm still exists, is stepping down as of April 23rd. Not good news for my buddies at Palm.
No, not
I'm
really.
kind of upset about this. I mean, I don't know what's going down at Palm, but come on, that's so. Meanwhile, they're running around and they're throwing stocks and hard cash. The way I think Engadget wrote it, up
Yep.
to $250,000 in cold hard cash to a lot of the executives to give them a guarantee that they will stay at Palm for a certain period of time. And the suspicion here is that is not uncommon to do whenever you are preparing to sell the company to another company, because whenever RIM, BlackBerry or whoever comes in to buy your company, they don't want all of the brains to disappear and them just to own the name. They want all of the people to stay there. And so they get these guarantees to make sure that the people will remain there after the company's bought up by the competitor. So that's the suspicion. So there's some more news on that recently. And I think you were reading that a little bit.
Yeah. Bloomberg reported, on the 12th, so Tuesday? I don't know. I can't keep track of days. On the 12th, that it is that their sources inside Palm tell them that it's going to be put up for sale and that this coming week they're going to start accepting bids.
Yeah, I'm a little unhappy. Now, it's going to be interesting to see whoever does purchase it. And, it's not a shock. Palm has been doing miserably for the last, for the last 10 years, but
decade.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. But the last 2 years, I really had my, hopes up on Palm. I mean, I am just, me, I am a fanboy for the Palm Pre. And I thought that this was going to be their comeback. I mean, I had written them off before the Pre. They were gone. And, in the comment that everyone had whenever they announced the Palm Pre here, 2.5 years ago, was Palm still around? They thought they was already gone, and so I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. I'm hoping that whoever buys it keeps the Palm Pre around, or at least the WebOS, because I still firmly believe that as of right now, WebOS is the best mobile platform out there, bar none. Even bar your silly Android platform. And
oh man,
as sexy as that voice is that comes on there and says "droid," as awesome as that is.
Oh, I turned that off.
Yeah. Doesn't everybody? Who leaves that on? That is so. Anyhow,
I'm
but
not aware of anybody.
And even as sexy as the iPhone is,
people look up.
Yeah, well, yeah, and even as sexy as the iPhone is, and it is sexy, I still think that the Palm OS is the best mobile platform out there. So whoever gets the WebOS platform, I think.
Yeah, although I like my Android a lot, and I did like my iPhone, I just didn't have any service on it.
AT&T.
Yeah, it wasn't a problem with the iPhone; it was right. AT&T. I agree. I think WebOS is a really good combination of the two. It has the power that Android does with the user friendly interface that iPhone has.
Well said, sir. Well said. I agree with you completely.
I mean, Android can do a ton of stuff.
And it's open source. If Dan were here, I'm going to channel Dan a little bit here. If Dan were here, he'd be saying Android all the way because it's open source. Although I think his main phone is an iPhone now, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
I think it is.
So, but still, I think he
Last
prefers the open source.
Yeah. And I'm a huge open source fan too. But
So here's the deal.
It's not very user-friendly.
Who is going to buy Palm, number one? And number two, are they going to keep WebOS and the Palm Pre? So here's the thing. Whoever buys Palm is not buying it for the Palm Pre. The hardware is nice, but whoever's going to buy Palm, I believe, is going to kill the Palm Pre and Palm Pixie in, within a couple of years at most. Within a year or two, they'll be gone.
It's probably good because what man is going to buy a Palm Prick?
Half Pixie, of that is, well, as a matter of fact, I'll let you know, at the bar I was at last night, this guy sitting next to me had a Palm Pixie, and before you ask, he wasn't hitting on me. He was a real man's man, and not like that.
Was it a very colorful bar?
Just because the phone was pink doesn't mean... No, but seriously, I think part of that problem...
I can't whip out a phone and be like, yeah, hey, look at my awesome Pixie.
All right, so number one, the name. You don't name a phone Pixie. Number two, the advertising. Apparently, the only people allowed to buy Palm Pixies are moms. Have you seen the commercials? That's all they advertise them for. They're like, if you want a really awesome phone, get the Palm Pre, or if you're a mom, get the Palm Pixie. Like, how gender come on, get with it. Anyhow, back to my
It's
question.
better than their old ads.
So not by much. So who is going to buy this? Are we talking Apple isn't going to touch it? Apple is so in their own little world. They couldn't care less about Palm. They don't need it, right? Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Palm is Apple's got no. Apple doesn't have a long-term pattern of picking up companies, the competitors. Apple is doing great in their own little world. I don't think they're going to care, and I don't think there's anything that Apple's going to steal from Palm.
No.
I'm thinking that there's stuff that they should steal from Palm, like the awesome multitasking user interface. If Apple had that would be killer. Where you can have different cards open and swipe them away and so on. Apple needs that, but I don't think they're ever going to do it. They're too stuck in their ways.
Right. Just like they'll never have a keyboard.
Right, just like they'll never have a keyboard. Right, I agree with you there. So Apple's not going to get it. Other ones that have been mentioned is Google. That's a possibility, I think. Google likes buying companies. Google's got so much money laying around, they don't know what to do with it. They like to buy these companies and just let them sit. What'd you say?
Yeah. They can give me some. Come on, I'm on here arguing that Android's better.
That's
I'm
true.
the spokesperson. I don't see Google buying it. I really don't. I think, especially now that they've come out with their own phone.
Right.
Like when they were just supplying the OS to other manufacturers' phones.
Well,
I might have leaned towards.
Here's the deal.
Maybe they might bid,
even with their own phone, how many of those things are they selling? I mean, I think Google is trying to push hard into the mobile platform area, and I think this would be a good way just to jumpstart that a little bit more. I'm not counting Google out yet. I think they are a good possibility. But I think more likely is going to be a handset manufacturer. I think HTC or some other. I'm trying to think of some other big handset.
Who I think should buy it?
Who's that?
RIM.
RIM is RIM needs.
They need to update their OS badly.
You got it. You just hit the nail on the head.
It hasn't changed.
So RIM has two options. Either they need to do what Palm did and spend millions of dollars developing a brand new operating system and just drop the BlackBerry OS, which, come on, let's face it, looks like it was made in 1980. Yeah. Either they need to do that.
Windows 3.1 looked better.
I love where the BlackBerries get all updated in their new version of the software, and they switch from black and white icons to 16 color icons. It's like wow, like welcome to 1990. Come on. So either they need to do what Palm did and just dump the BlackBerry OS and switch to something completely new, build something new from the ground up, or as you're suggesting, buy Palm and have WebOS to throw onto the BlackBerry devices and the new new BlackBerry
devices. They're going to have
devices.
to make some adjustments, but
sure. Yeah, they're going to have to make it their own and make it more business specific, just like Apple's starting to do with their OS 4 that we're talking about. BlackBerry, the reason they are still alive is because they are so enterprise, specific, and they get along so well with enterprises and have all of the features that IT departments need to be able to, issue 1,000 BlackBerries to people. They can't program each one of those things individually. So, I think you're right. I think the smartest move would be for BlackBerry to buy it, RIM to buy it. RIM, for those who don't know, is the company that owns BlackBerry. The second best thing, I think, would be for HTC or even Sony Ericsson or some other handset manufacturer to buy it. And third, I think, would be Google. But I don't think Apple, I don't think Microsoft is going to come anywhere near it. Microsoft has their new Windows Mobile platform that they already are showing off and getting ready to ship out. Apple is in their own world and isn't going to pick up Palm for any reason. I think that's what's going to happen.
Right. I agree.
All right. Well, now that we've settled that debate, we can go ahead and those companies can send us our cut of making that decision. We appreciate it.
Right. That they don't need to sit around and negotiate and try to decide if it's a good investment.
How many thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they spend, researching these companies and figuring out what strategy they're going to do. They can just ask us. Well, we'll spend their money.
Even Puddles agrees.
Right. Yeah. Puddles knows. She
look at her. She's thrilled.
What's going down? She
is thrilled.
And that's pretty much what Apple looked like whenever they heard that Palm was for sale.
I think you're about right.
I think that Puddles opened her eyes a little bit and looked and then shut them. Like, oh, all right, great. So anyhow, all right. So what else are we going to talk about? The iPad. We were talking about the iPad a little bit, and one thing that still has people unhappy about the iPod OS, iPhone OS, and also the iPad especially is no Flash. You know, what's up with that? Everyone expected the iPad to have Flash, and then everyone thought, not everyone, but some people thought when the iPhone 4 operating system was announced, they would announce that Flash would be part of that. But
I think Apple's trying to kill them.
you know, here's the thing. Steve Jobs has said that he doesn't think Flash is the wave of the future. He thinks Flash is dying and going away, and it's going to be something else. Hopefully, you know, Apple.
HTML5.
Yes, exactly. HTML5. That's exactly. So that's what they're going for. But come on, how long is it going to be before all of the Flash applications out there are actually switched over to HTML5?
It'll be a while.
It'll be a long while. Long while. So I don't know what the deal is. So what this story is, and I'll paste it into the chat room for those in there, is it was posted on the Tech Support Guy site under tech-related news. And Flash video, I should specify, not just Flash applications, but specifically Flash video, can be played on the iPad using this software called from Ripcode. And they have Ripcode enables clientless Adobe Flash video on the Apple iPad. So they found some way, to run. Now, I suspect Steve Jobs is none too happy about this. And there's a lot of controversy over it.
Application won't be there for too long.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's not, from my understanding, from just looking through it, is that it's, what was I going to say? That it's more of a jailbreak thing than a application.
Oh, I gotcha. All right.
Right.
We're already jailbreaking iPads.
Right. Well, why not? Well, and speaking of jailbreaking iPads, Ecom in the chat room sent me a link, and I'm going to put this in the show notes, and it is of, or supposedly, of an iPad that can run Windows 95. It's been modified in some way to run Windows 95, and I know you're probably not able to watch the video right now while we're in the video chat, but I'll describe it a little bit also for those listening on the audio podcast. So this guy has the iPad there. It definitely looks like an iPad. He is flipping through it and hitting different buttons and typing on it. And now he's going into this application that has the Windows symbol on it, and it looks like it's a virtual machine, you know, where you can run an operating system inside your operating system. Mm-hmm. And he goes in here. He's flipping it over, trying to prove that it really is the iPad, and I believe it is, although it looks like it's got some kind of piece of plastic over the top of it. It really
looks very glossy.
It looks very glossy. And here's the keyboard, though. I mean, that definitely looks like the iPad keyboard. Mm-hmm. And it says iPad at the top. You can see the little, and even the little Wi-Fi symbol there.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like this is a virtual machine running on the iPad. And I wasn't aware of any virtual machine software that the iPhone OS supports, but
right,
I could be mistaken. And it's taken forever to boot it up, and it is only Windows 95, presumably because of the processor and memory, on the iPad. I mean, it's not designed to be a computer; it's designed to be an iPad.
Right.
So there it is. He's booted up. He's looking at the desktop of Windows 95 with the old school, like Internet Explorer 3.0 or something icon there. That might even be 2.0. I don't even know. And he's moving the mouse around using his finger, and it looks very jumpy. I mean, you can tell it's not, but he's typing on it into Notepad, and he says, "Hello from Windows 95." I think, I don't know what he's saying, something like that. I can't. Oh, hello from Vladif something. Maybe this is the guy or the company who did this. So how the heck he did this, I don't know, but it sure is interesting and shows off a little bit of the capability of the iPad. I mean, we're looking at a device that is supposed to be just for surfing the web and running some applications like your phone, and it's almost as powerful as a Windows 95 computer.
Right.
So what's really also interesting here is I got another video that YouTube just found as a related video, that is how to do this on your how to do this. It says how to run Windows 95 and Windows 3.1 on iPod Touch or iPhone. And so he's showing you here
so you can do it on the iTouch too.
Right, and it's got to require it to be jailbroken. And it makes sense because the iPod really is just running is just running the same software, right? I mean, it's running the iPhone OS 4 software. And it looks like there's an application here. He's showing off on here that you can just hit Windows 3.11 or Windows 95, and it boots it up into this virtual machine.
So you have a dual boot.
Right. So this is legit. I mean, there's
iTouch.
people doing it on iPhones and iTouches.
That's interesting.
It's wicked. I don't know how useful it is, and as some people have pointed out, it would be the first, Apple product, iPhone or iPad to run Flash.
That's true.
Assuming that you would be able to find some old version of Flash that'll run in Windows 95.
Well, yeah, that's a fair point.
That might be your issue. I don't know.
And you'd be able to multitask.
Hey, now you're talking. We don't even need this new OS update. All we need is to run
right.
Windows. How ridiculous is that? We're actually saying you should run Windows 95 on your awesome new hardware because it does so much more than the new Apple software. That's kind of sad, Apple. Come on, get with the program. Anyhow.
Good thing Dan's not here.
Fun stuff. Yeah, good thing. Well, and hopefully he'll be here with us next time. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. Our next show is going to be Saturday, May 8th at noon Eastern. And again, we record this live. We broadcast it live over the internet while we record it. So if you go to techguide.tv, www.techguide.tv, it'll tell you when the next show is going to be. So you can go to that site and watch live. Again, it'll be noon Eastern on Saturday, May 8th. So if you go to www.techguide.tv, then you'll be able to watch us do this live. Jump into the live chat room where Ekim sent us that video, and thank you very much for that. And also at techguide.tv, you can find past episodes. And here within a day or two, I'll try to have this episode up there. You can also find it, of course, in iTunes. Just search for Tech Support Guy in iTunes, and you'll find both the audio-only version of this show as well as two video versions of it, a small and a large video. So Glenn, where can folks find out more about you? Follow your Twitter?
Twitter is probably the best way. Just Glenn Cermak. Make sure there's two N's and make sure you spell Cermak right.
Right on. So it's his Twitter is Glenn Glenn Cermak Cermak. And that'll also be in our show notes. And that's the other thing. If you go to techguide.tv, you'll find our show notes there, where we'll have the links to the videos. So if you want to find out how to put Windows 3.1 or 95 on your iPhone, you can do that. But also find his Twitter and be able to follow him. And Tech Support Guy's Twitter is at Tech Support Guy. Follow that, and you'll also get updates about whenever we're doing new shows and whenever anything interesting is going on the site. So thanks for...
We're also original with our Twitter names.
I know, right? And my personal one is Mike Cermak. Yours is Glenn Cermak. Tech Support Guys is Tech Support Guy. We try to make it easy for you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you want. We can't make it any easier than that. So Tech Support Guy actually just passed 300 followers, which is...
Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right? Which is pretty pathetic when you look at, Ashton Kutcher, who has, 30,000. But you get maybe...
he's over 1 million, man.
Oh, is he really? So I have no idea. I don't even know.
Yeah. My wife's one of them.
I don't understand. But anyhow, unrelated. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and thanks for those who are in the chat, and thanks, Glenn, for jumping in here at the last minute. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. All right. So I'm trying to go through and figure out what stories we want to make sure we hit. The biggest thing, of course, is iPhone OS 4 being announced. So I want to talk about that a little bit. This is TSG. What number are we up to? Like 34? I don't know. Did you see I got techguy.tv?
I didn't. That's
how freaking sweet is that?
Nerdy.
No, I said sweet. Sweet.
That's what I said too. It's a bad connection.